Ukrainian troops are set to begin training in Oklahoma as soon as next week. The Pentagon announcing earlier this week that soldiers will learn how to use the Patriot missile system at Fort Sill. Joining me now to talk more about that system and the specialized training is Tom Karako with the Center for Strategic and International Studies. Tom, thank you so much for joining us today.
Happy to be here. Thanks.
So can you tell us what exactly this training process involves and the manpower that's needed to operate a system like this?
Yeah. Patriot is the most sophisticated air defense system that the United States has. It's actually an air and missile defense system that some 18 countries now operate, and Ukraine will become number 19. And as a result, a lot of training is involved, probably on the order of about 6 months usually. As it turns out, for all of the United States Patriot Force and all of those other countries, much of it, almost all of it, is done in Lawton, Oklahoma, at Fort Sill, at the schoolhouse. And so you have all manner of different countries coming in and training on the system in the classrooms to understand how to operate this really important system. It's a fascinating place. It's a really important, I would say, unappreciated national treasure for the Air Defense Force, not merely for the United States, but with a lot of our allies.
Now, recently, an Oklahoma senator is taking issue with this training. He's filed a resolution to try to block Ukrainian troops from actually coming here. Nathan Dahm is citing that missile attack in Poland that killed 2 civilians in November as a potential concern for Oklahomans. Of course, as you know, officials determining in that incident that there was a high chance this missile came from Ukrainian troops, but not deliberately. Can you speak to the safety surrounding this type of training?
Okay. Well, first of all, a lot of this training is in the classroom, and it's in very controlled environments. They're not just going out there and shooting stuff off. And so while I appreciate the concern for Oklahomans, I can't help but think that has a little bit more of a foreign policy tinge to it, a kind of a little bit of a dislike of kind of U.S. aid to Ukraine than it does with safety. The folks at Fort Sill are going to be extremely careful on this. And frankly, a lot of the live fire stuff may be going on in other parts of the country. So unfortunately, I would have to respectfully disagree that concern is really misplaced. I think the air defenders at Fort Sill, they're not only professionals that are very careful about those kinds of things, but for their neighbors in Oklahoma, but they are also doing an important service to the United States for our broader national security interests.
And Tom, you're speaking from a firsthand experience. I understand that you've spent a lot of time at Fort Sill, and this is not new that foreigners are coming here to Oklahoma to be trained by U.S. troops.
Oh, exactly. This is something that, again, goes on for all of those 18 countries that operate Patriot. And by the way, Fort Sill is now the location of the Joint Center of Excellence for all counter-UAS efforts that the Army and other services are going to be training on. So it's a really important site. As I said, kind of an underappreciated site for the Air Defense Force, for the United States and all these other countries. And it's, again, a really important service. So lots of kudos to the air defenders at Fort Sill for helping out the Ukrainians. And as we see from the Ukrainian conflict, the Russian very intense air and missile attacks, the demand signal for air defense and missile defense of all kinds has really gone up considerably. And that, again, puts a premium on these kinds of training activities in Lawton.
So obviously in the short term, about 100 troops will be here in Oklahoma training. They have to come off the front lines. The U.S. has pledged 1 Patriot battery in December to the Ukrainians. How significant will this be when the troops leave Oklahoma and go back to Ukraine to actually be able to use this system in their fight?
It's a really big deal. It's a huge political gesture on the part of the United States that the United States is committed to Ukrainians' sovereignty. Again, Patriot is the most sophisticated air defense capability the United States has. And as you said, about 90 troops or so are going to require to operate that battery. You have your radar, you have your generators, you have your command centers, and all this sort of thing. Thankfully, actually, the Germans have also said that they would be sending a Patriot battery, so that's going to help. The defended area, despite the enormous capability, the defended area of a Patriot is still relatively modest, Ukraine being about the size of Texas, and it's going to defend a small part of that. And this is why the Ukrainians, demand for more and more air defenses. It's very understandable, but it's also, I think, important to put in perspective what a single battery is able to defend. It's limited, that's okay, but it's a good thing that other countries like Germany, maybe some others yet to come, are contributing Patriot and as well as other air defense systems.
Now, the U.S. has helped train Ukrainian troops on European soil. Is there any potential that moving that training here to the U.S. could anger Russia?
Look, there's plenty of things that anger Russia. When we're putting up speed bumps in the sky or defenses for Ukraine to defend itself, of course they're going to be irritated that we're slowing that down, right? They would like to just have their aggression concluded in a stroke. But frankly, that's also a signal that we're probably doing the right thing. If it's making the Russians irritated, that they're frankly evil invasion of this country is not going to come off so easily, that's for the good. So for all of the fear-mongering and the propaganda that the Russians are putting out in terms of, oh my goodness, this is destabilizing, this is a defensive system. This is not going to shoot things into Russia. This is a defensive system. And so we should not be using that as a metric for whether or not it's the right policy thing to do. And I do hope the folks in Oklahoma City and the local politicians really appreciate the value of this important contribution that's going on here, and hopefully not put up any roadblocks. And
showcasing our state on the national and international stage. Tom, thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate not only your time, but your context.
That's right. Thank you very much.